Hey guys, this is Mr. Grice for Algebra 1, Section 6.1 Notes. Day 2. Today we're continuing our discussion on properties of exponents. Well, if you were in class today, you heard Ms. Cararnza and I do our fabulous wrap of Drop It Like It's Hot. Now, we're continuing that with the notes. These are the exact same notes as we started yesterday. And now we're just talking about the negative exponent property and the zero exponent property. So, we talked that if a base has a negative exponent, we said you drop it like it's hot or you move it to the top. But the real words that we're going to start using right now is, so we're checking a negative exponent, you have to move it, okay? And you're either going to move it to the numerator or denominator to make the exponent become positive. And once you move that exponent, then that's when it becomes positive. Okay, so let's take a look at our first couple examples. Now, we have x to the negative 2. Now, we have a negative exponent, so when you have a negative exponent, you want to drop it like it's hot. Okay, so when we rewrite this, that x squared is now on the bottom. But you're like, well, Mr. Grice, what's on the top? Well, if everything's on the bottom, you can't have nothing on the top, so you add a 1. So your final answer is 1x squared. Okay? Now, when you have the negative on the outside, you have to remember that everything inside still has an exponent. Okay? If nothing's there, it's 1. And we have to distribute first. So when we distribute our new exponents, 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. Once again, 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. If your exponent's negative, you drop it like it's hot. And both of those are negative, so I'm going to draw in the fraction bar. Those go down to the bottom, 2 cubed, and once they go down, they're positive. And then we have a 1 on the top. And I'd love to say, hey, we're done, but we're not. 2 cubed. Okay, that's 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8 w cubed. So now we're done with that. Okay? Now, let's look at the next two examples. 1 over y to the 4th. If your exponent's negative, you drop it like it's hot. If it's already on the bottom, you bring it to the top. So this is really saying 1 y4th, and you would be like, well, Mr. Grice, it's a fraction. Okay, yeah, so there's nothing on the bottom, there's a 1. But if it's just a 1, you really don't need it there. So your final answer is 1y to the 4th, or just y to the 4th. You don't even need the 1 there. Okay? All right, our next example. Once again, let's see. We have to distribute that negative 1. Okay, so when we distribute, all of our exponents change. Our bases stay the same. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1, and that's the same on the bottom. Okay? If your exponent's negative, you drop it like it's hot. If it's already on the bottom, you bring it to the top. Okay? So my y is on the bottom. My 2 is on the top. Both of those exponents are 1. And there's nothing else we can really do with it. So that's our final answer, 2 over y. Okay. Our next one is the zero exponent property. So if a base has an exponent, a zero exponent, the base turns into 1. If your exponent's 0, the base turns into 1. There's the first part of the wrap, okay? But you have to be careful, only the base. And that's where we talk about our notes from the top up here. The base is any number that has an exponent, okay? So our base is 0, or is x. So if your exponent's 0, your base turns into 1. Your entire base, so this whole part inside the parentheses is my base. That whole thing turns to 1. So remember, whatever is directly in front of my negative is not directly in front of. That's why there's a difference between the middle one and the last one, okay? So that negative sign stays there, but x, which is the base, turns into 1. So now it's just a negative 1. All right, the next part, with the parentheses. Now, everything does have an exponent of 1, and you can distribute to all three things. However, that whole thing is my base. So if that whole thing is my base and my exponent is 0, the whole thing turns into 1. Okay? And that's the same thing with our next one. The whole base turns into 1, but that negative sign is still there. Okay, so it's negative, but then everything else turns to 1. So it's a negative 1. And I'll move that negative sign so it actually looks like it belongs to it. Okay? So remember, if your exponent's 0, your base turns into 1. If you have a negative exponent, you drop it like it's hot. If it's already on the bottom, you bring it to the top. So those are the two new rules that we're talking about. All right. So this is going to be the first part of the video. The second part of the video is going to be the in-class practice that we did. Okay. Where we're going to start combining a lot of these rules together. Okay. Well, that's it for the 6.1 notes, day 2. If you have any questions, come find Ms. Cararnza or myself. We'd love to help you out. Thanks for watching.